Welcome to the show. It's time to dive in. Talking sports with Evan. Let the fun begin. From the Brewers to the Packers, we cover it all. Wisconsin pride, we stand tall. The baggers on the field making history. With every touchdown, it's a victory. From Camp Randall to the court, we chill out. Wisconsin sports, we make our state proud. Feel the energy, the passion in the air. Join the conversation, we got stories to share. From the Bucks' big wins to the Brewers' great plays, we'll keep you entertained through all the games. Hey, sports with Evan, it's where we belong. Wisconsin's heart, it beats strong.
Good evening, and welcome back to Talking Sports with Evan. After a couple weeks of not doing a show, I am back and ready to bring you my sports thoughts, opinions, and takes. And I want to say thank you so much to all those that have been supporting the show and have been reaching out to me, giving me support while I was making a decision on the future of this podcast, which you can find the videos I posted talking about the future of the show on Talking Sports with Evan, Facebook and YouTube page. And you can also find it on X at Evan with Sports. Long story short, I was debating about no longer doing the show for various reasons that I kind of talked a little bit about, but not too much during my announcement video. But the podcast is going to continue. I know there will be a few disappointed people there. There was hoping that I would just give it up, but the podcast will continue. And I'm going to continue to try to grow this podcast as much as I love all you fans and listeners, but this gives me a platform that I can have an outlet to talk about my thoughts and opinions on various sports topics. So that's why I do this for the most part. I just enjoy, having you come along for the ride. So lots have transpired since the last time I was sitting in this chair with the Packer stuff, Buck stuff, Brewer stuff behind me. Lots have happened with the Packers and with the Badgers and with the Brewers and with the Bucks that there's a lot to digest that I'm probably not going to be able to get it all done in the 30 minutes of the show. But guess what? I will have another episode later this week, Thursday, depending on how late I get back from the Brewer game, or Friday. Well, I will continue some of the conversations that I didn't get to here tonight. Again, you can find the podcast, find the video stream on YouTube and Facebook, Talking Sports with Evan. Make sure to like and subscribe, or you can find it on X at Evan with Sports. You can also find it on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast. Look up Talking Sports with Evan and you'll find it. I know for sure it's Spotify and Apple, and I think it's on a bunch of other platforms as well. So, lots to discuss. And the first thing I'm going to talk about, Wisconsin Badger basketball, because Thursday we saw the Badgers, unfortunately, once again bow out on the opening weekend, this in the first round to High Point. And seeing a lot of conversations one way or the other about where do they go from here? What do they do from here? Greg Gard. Is it time for him to go? Is it time for the Badgers to look for a new basketball coach? And here's my opinion. I think the conversation is appropriate. I think the conversation around Greg Gard, for the most part, is appropriate because we haven't made it to the Sweet 16 in 7 to 9 years, somewhere in that time frame. It's been a while since the Badgers made it to the Sweet 16. It's been a while since they, they haven't lost to a team, they've lost to teams they have no business losing to. So I think the conversation is legitimate. Can Greg Gard get them over that hump? And I get the Badger basketball team is not going to be a national champion contender every year. Maybe they sneak to the Final Four if things fall right. Maybe they sneak to the championship game if things fall right. But overall, the Badgers are not going to be a national championship contending team for the most part. It's just not really how the cards are laid out right now in the landscape of college athletics. But there's no reason, there's no excuse that the Badgers should not be able to make a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 every now and then. Like, that should be the expectation. Everything beyond that, house money. But there's no reason why this team should not make the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 every single year or most years. There's no reason for that. And it's frustrating when you see them lose. And you can point to the coaching and Greg Gard, but ultimately the guys on the floor need to execute. I don't think we're to that point yet where Greg Gard needs to go. He's not quite in the Paul Chryst territory where he definitely overstayed his welcome and it's time to move on. Unfortunately, we've seen how that's worked out for the football program since they moved on from Paul Chryst. I think Gard has a leash that's a little bit longer to see what he can do. He reinvented himself. He's attacked the transfer portal. He's gotten Johnny Davis. He's gotten Tanjay. He's gotten Boyd. He's gotten, you name it. He's gotten these guys to come in. And unfortunately, Thursday, things just didn't work out for the Badgers. And they lost to High Point, a team that on paper they were better than. But High Point, they showed you that games are not played on paper. And they made some ridiculous shots, made some ridiculous threes, and outplayed Wisconsin where it mattered, and that was on the glass. They had 13 offensive rebounds to Wisconsin's 6, and Wisconsin did not use their size to their advantage. But there's a couple there, and there's another reason too. I don't think it's time to move on from Greg Gard. I think he's shown the track record that he deserves another opportunity to show that he can get this team past the opening weekend. I know we haven't seen it in a bunch of years now. But the other reason is I don't trust Chris McIntosh to get the position right. You see what's happened with the football program and how he's still standing behind Luke Fickell, even though it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that Luke Fickell is not the guy for the job. And full transparency here, I was fine with the Luke Fickell hire. I thought the Luke Fickell hire was a good job, a good hire for the Wisconsin Badgers. I thought it was what the Badgers needed to get to where they wanted to go. Where clearly I've been wrong. Things have not gone well. His coaching hires have not been good. His recruiting has struggled. He's not recruiting the state really at all. And we've seen the domino effect from the hire of Luke Fickell. I don't trust Chris McIntosh to get the basketball hire correct. And I know, you saw what happened with Iowa. Iowa never gets past the first round or first weekend, with Fran McCaffrey. And the very next year after they fire Fran McCaffrey, they're in the Sweet 16 with a good chance to go to the Elite 8 if they can get by Nebraska. So, yes, the grass is sometimes greener on the other side of the fence. But, again, how much do you trust Chris McIntosh, the Badgers athletic director, to make the right hire? Because, as I said, I don't trust him. Can we get a new AD and then make a coaching change potentially? But I will say this. If the Badgers cannot make the tournament next year, or they bow out again in the first round or the second round again, then I will be all for bringing in some new blood. But like I said, it's disappointing, and I don't trust McIntosh in his decision-making to hire the best person for the job. So that's my thought on Badger basketball as we speak right now. It was a disappointing finish to the year. Green Bay Packers. Free agency. They made some moves in free agency. And now we're looking at what's next for the Green Bay Packers. And are they moving to a 3-4 or not? And first of all, the moves the Packers have made. They signed Javon Hargrave. They traded for Zaire Franklin. Those are good moves, in my opinion. But the question is, have they done enough? Have they done enough to bridge that gap to be a Super Bowl contender? And as of right now, the answer is no. When you look at the Packers' defensive depth chart right now, you got Carl Brooks, Devontae Wyatt, and Javon Hargrave as your base 3-4 defensive line. Behind them, you got Warren Brinson, Jordan Riley, and Jaden Crumley. Then you have James Easter, Nazir Stackhouse, Jonathan Ford. Not really guys that make you pound the table in celebration. Linebacker-wise, you have Brenton Cox, Micah Parsons, Lucas Van Ness as your outside guys. Because when you're 3-4, your outside linebackers are more of your edge rushers. And I Micah Parsons going to miss some time more than likely, so I'm not high on the edge rushing position right now. And then the middle linebacker, you have Edgerrin Cooper and Zaire Franklin with McDuffie and Hopper, Welch, and Neiman after that. Again, not really comfortable once you get outside of Cooper and Franklin. I'm not very high on McDuffie, especially playing a 3-4 base. And then corners, you have Valentine and Nixon, Bartholomew and St. Juice. And you're pretty thin at the safety after McKinney and Williams. Don't have much after them. And then the only nickelback you have right now is Bullard, who would be your backup safety if something were to happen to Williams or McKinney. And then you don't have any nickelback unless you put Keyshawn Nixon in the slot and put him there instead. Defensively, the Packers are not a championship caliber team at the moment, even with the healthy Micah Parsons. I don't feel they've done enough to address that side of the football as we speak. Now, I know we have the NFL draft in about a month. Packers don't have a pick this time next month, but they do have the 52nd pick in the second round, and then your third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round picks. I don't know if the draft is where you're going to fill all those holes and get the talent that you need immediately. I think corner and defensive line are the two spots that they really need to focus on in the draft. And then offensive line, they could definitely use some depth there. I think wide receiver, you're fine. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Dontavion Wicks, Tucker Kraft when he's healthy. I think you're fine there. But I think you still need to invest in a backup tight end. John Wiley is unproven. Luke Musgrave did not take the best advantage of his opportunities after Tucker Kraft got hurt. The position was definitely a lot weaker because of that. And I think, as I said, offensive line, I'm worried about depth. You have Jordan Morgan at left tackle, first-year starter there, and you don't really have anybody that can play left tackle other than Zach Tom outside of him. You have Anthony Belton at right guard, who is pretty up and down as a rookie, saw some promise. Sean Ryan at center, his first full year as a starting center. And Aaron Banks did play better after he was finally healthy, but I still don't think he lived up to the contract that he signed. I still think there's moves the Packers need to make, either via trade or still hitting some of the street free agents to try to bolster the roster a little bit. But I do like the Hargrave. I do like the Franklin trade and signing because you're getting guys that are going to bring an attitude to this team. The Packers don't have anyone that brings an attitude on a down-by-down basis, and these are two guys that do. Micah Parsons is another guy that does. And those three together should bring some elite leadership to the defensive side of the ball to help this defense start being a defense that's aggressive rather than passive. But I do also have a problem for the fact that we're just speculating that the Packers are going to go to a 3-4 base based off Covington now being the outside linebackers coach, which you don't have an outside linebackers coach unless you're a 3-4. But you have Goody at the combine talking about being more of a 4-2. But you have the writing on the wall that it's going to be a 3-4 base. And the thing is, 4-3, 3-4 base defense at the end of the day doesn't really matter because majority of the time in the NFL, you're going to be in the nickel package anyways. but it'd be nice to know what Jonathan Gannon's plans are defensively. He's yet to talk to the media since getting the job, so we don't really know even what his plans are on defense. Does he plan to be aggressive and bring pressure? Does he plan to try to get to the quarterback with four guys? Does he what is he? Does he plan to play more zone? Does he plan to play more man cover? Like, what is he planning to do? Which would be nice to know, but he's yet to talk to the media. The new special teams coordinator has yet to talk to the media. The new position coaches have yet to talk to the media. Matt LaFleur, since the coaching staff was finalized, has yet to talk to the media. So we don't really know what the Packers' plans are really at all on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's fair to say what their plan is on the offensive side of the ball, but I hope they change things up a little bit offensively and go more to a passing-centric offense and build the run off of the pass rather than the opposite. Because you have a quarterback, when you go by Pro Football Focus, when you go by ESPN's QBR, when you talk to the talking heads in the NFL, majority of the people feel that Jordan Love is a top 5 quarterback, and the metrics show that he's a top 5 quarterback, but Matt LaFleur doesn't coach him like he's a top 5 quarterback. He coaches up Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur coaches up Jordan Love like he's a Joe Flacco. He coaches him up like he's a Trent Dilfer. Just don't make mistakes and hand the ball off to your running back. That's not the quarterback Jordan Love is. And he's shown that when he has time to throw the football, he's going to pick you apart. And I hope the offensive scheme makes some changes to allow the Packers to be more of a pass-first team. And just because you're a pass-first team doesn't mean you're throwing the ball 40 to 50 to 60 times a game. It's just that you're going to either be more 50-50 balance or maybe a 60-40, 55-45 type ratio from pass to run. And that's what I hope to see with the Green Bay Packers in the 2026 season. You have weapons on the perimeter in Watson, in Reed, in Golden, in Kraft, in Wicks, possibly in Savion Williams. You have weapons on the perimeter. Use the weapons you have on the perimeter and build everything else off of your passing game. That is what the Packers need to do. Pro Football Focus, if you listen to their grades, Jordan Love was the 4th rated quarterback in the NFL in 2025. In ESPN's QBR, he had the 2nd highest QBR rating in the NFL in 2025. Start utilizing the quarterback you have under center. So that's it for the Packers today. I'll talk more Packers later. Going to move on to the Milwaukee Brewers. And the baseball season is here on Thursday. I will be at opening day at American Family Field cheering on the Milwaukee Brewers. And the questions for the Brewers are the same questions every single year. Do they have enough to compete? This 2 off seasons ago, they traded Corbin Burns. 3 off seasons ago, I'm sorry. Two off seasons ago, they traded Corbin Burns. Last off season, they traded Freddie Peralta. Or I should say this off season, they traded Freddie Peralta. The Brewers made the moves they always make, and the question is going to be, do they have enough to compete for another NL Central title? The Cubs have made some significant signings. I'm not going to say improvements yet until we see what happens when the season starts. The Pirates made some signings. The Reds made some signings. The only team in the division that pretty much stood pat were the Brewers and the Cardinals. And the Brewers are hoping that the young guys they have on their team continue to grow. That's what the Brewers are hoping for. But I'm excited for this Brewer team. Do I think they win the division as of right now? No. Do I think they make the playoffs as a wild card team? Yes. I think with the young guys like your Bryce Terang, your Jackson Cheerio, your Joey Ortiz. Yes, I'm talking about Joey Ortiz. I think Jet Williams becomes a key player for the Brewers this year. You have Sal Frelick, you have Contreras behind the plate, and you still have the veteran and Christian Yelich. I think offensively, they might have a slight step back from what they did last year, but I think they have enough offense to cause enough damage. And the question is going to be, can the pitching hold up? You have a lot of young guys in the rotation, and your veteran in the rotation is a guy that hasn't shown he can be healthy in the last 3 years in Woody. So that's what it's going to come down to for the Brewers. Can the pitching stay healthy? Can the pitching hold up? Can the young starting rotation do enough? Because the bullpen is going to be good. The offense should be good, and it's going to come down to the starting pitching. I think Bryce Terang is going to get some MVP votes. I think Jackson Cheerio is going to get some MVP votes. I think Jacob Mizorowski is going to be outstanding this season. Jake Bauers has had a great spring. Can he carry that over? You have Angel Zerpa, who they got, and he's looked very good out of the bullpen so far. The big question, you have Kyle Harrison, who they got in the Freddie Peralta trade. Sorry, correction. That was the Boston Red Sox trade. But you got guys who can potentially do enough to get you to where you need to go. Quinn Priester is already going to be starting the season on the IL. Hopefully he's back and ready to go by May, and hopefully he can have another good season. Chad Patrick had a really good postseason for the Brewers, as did Jacob Mizorowski. Your closing pitcher, Trevor McGill and Aber Uribe. And mix that with Jared Keening, Aaron Ashby, Grant Anderson, Dio Hall, and Zerpa. You got a pretty good bullpen right there. Just have to hope the offense can produce enough runs and the starting pitching can go deep enough in the game to get you to the back half of that Brewer pen. I think if there's a season in 2027, I think the Brewers legitly have a chance to make some serious noise in the playoffs. When you have Jesus Mate potentially coming to the big show, 18-year-old Jesus Mate by 2027. You have Fisher possibly making it this year, if not 2027. You have Watkin potentially by the end of this year. Next year's Brewer squad, if things go the way it's looking like and there's a season, I think the Brewers have a team that could compete for the World Series in 2027. Unfortunately, we're in 2026, and we're kind of in a growth holding pattern for the Milwaukee Brewers. So with that said, I'm going to stop right there. And the Brewers, fine, I got to get my prediction. I think the Brewers are going to win about 91 games. I think they're going to finish a half game to a full game behind the Cubs for the division, and they're going to be a wild card team. So that's it. I think the Brewers are going to be a 91-win team. With that said, thank you so much for watching and listening to the return after a 3-week hiatus of Talking Sports with Evan. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe if you don't already. And please share it with your friends so I can continue to build the base of this show up a little bit as well. So with that said, I'll be back with you Thursday or Friday to recap Brewers opening day, talk some WWE, and there's some Milwaukee Bucks chatter that needs to happen too. Have a great rest of your night. Talk to you later in the week. I'll get back at you later.